everybody. My goodness, it's wonderful to see, or not see, everybody today, to know you're into house, into room. We've been going on this journey, the survivor's journey, from first recognizing that you're in an abusive relationship, that sort of dawning, flickering awareness from, is it abuse? Is it my fault? He's a doctor, he's a therapist, he's a religious leader, he's a pillar of the community, and yet why am I walking on eggshells and feeling like it's all my fault? I can't do anything right. I'm living in fear, and so are our children. If you've been in this type of relationship, know that it was through no fault of your own, and that is one of the most fundamental concepts to come to terms with in an abusive relationship where you are involved with a covert abuser. Is there's nothing that you did to provoke that abuse, and there's nothing you can do to reform this type of character if he fits the profile of the covert abuser. And this is someone who lacks empathy, lacks remorse, lacks self-reflection, lacks moral compass. It's all about winning, punishing anybody or anything that gets in his way, and that includes you and our children, if you have children. Today, we are going to be talking about the pathway to violence. Now, this was something that I learned about I'm a member of the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals, and as a member of the Association of Threat Assessment Professionals, ATAP, I've gone to their yearly conferences, and I was privileged to be a speaker in one of the years there, and it's an organization that's composed of providers involved with victims of domestic violence, stalking, terrorist threats, mass shootings, political threats, and the people that are members of it are district attorneys, police officers, FBI, CIA, forensic psychologists, and very few domestic violence advocates, as it turns out. So I was really privileged to learn a lot of cutting-edge information by attending these conferences. And one of the paradigms that I picked up while down there is called pathway to violence, or targeted violence, or intended violence. And I think it applies very well to an intimate partner relationship. And once you sort of get an idea of what the paradigm looks like, it can help with your safety planning if you can identify where he might be on that path to violence. And this chart was designed initially to focus on physical violence, somebody that becomes a mass shooter, goes on the attack. But as you know, dealing with a covert abuser, that attack may come in many different forms, not necessarily a knife, a car, or a gun. It could be an attack on your reputation in the community, an attack on your career, profession, undermining your relationship with your children, suddenly filing a restraining order against you, or demanding an emergency screening. Sometimes the attack is sort of long and slow, and sometimes it's something that you find you're being served with a process server. We do something called the danger assessment and the web scale to see if we can get a potential threat level that can vary according to what's happening in the court system. Did you just win a healthy, generous financial settlement? Did you get more custody of your children? Did he lose legal or physical custody? Did that restraining order become permanent? Is he perceiving that any of your wins become his losses? And if so, and that's commonly the case, he's often going to develop a grievance against you. And often these guys think that there's California law and there's their law. And their law supersedes California law in their minds often. It's like, imagine somebody that thinks the world revolves around them. They set their own rules, and anybody that violates those rules must be punished. They often see life as a zero-sum game. That means if you are winning or getting something, that must mean that they are losing or losing something, and often will blame you, even if it's been a judgment in place by the judge or the court or life circumstances. Somehow they always seem to find a way to blame you. And once that starts, once that grievance starts, that's when, if they feel like they've been wronged, and if, like for example, in a domestic violence relationship, if he's had a restraining order filed against him, now he may feel that something terrible has happened to him through no fault of his own, because these guys are very good at making themselves look like the victim and often talk themselves into believing that they are the victim and you're the perpetrator, and everybody else has to see how evil and horrible and abusive you are. And they will often accuse you of the very thing that they have done to you. We call that DARVO. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. DARVO. And you see that happen over and over again. Deny, attack, reverse, victim, and offender. Accusing you of the very thing that he's been guilty of. So accusing you of being emotionally, physically, or abusive, for example. So once they develop a grievance, they may move on to the next stage, and that is thinking about how to take justice in their own hands. What can he do to punish you if the court has failed him, if the police have failed him, if the judge has failed him, all in quotes here, because when you get justice on the days that you do get justice in family court or criminal court, that's when he's going to think that he's had justice denied and maybe has to start taking it into his own hands. And that's when he starts to think about ways to get vengeance. That's when he might start doing some research about how to go about doing that. And could that be gathering with an attorney and some other buddies who've been through the system and having a little conversation in a back room, starting to think about, well, how can we avoid having to pay our spousal support or child support? What can we do to make sure that we hold on to all that money that we worked so hard to earn, and now our wives are trying to steal it away from us? You know, we have this underground resistance movement that we have created here and that we're all a part of here, that sense of solidarity. And we spend a lot of time thinking about what is your partner or ex-partner's strategy, and then how can we develop a counter strategy to address that. So you can imagine that if we're doing this here in our underground secret society, don't you think there's a counterpart of sophisticated, powerful, affluent abusers who are sitting around in a dark room smoking their cigars and talking about how can we stick it to her? What can we do? You know, there is that book that has been circulating by, the author's name is Dick Hart. Dick Hart, what a name. And the book is called Screw the Bitch. That's a direct quote. And it's a picture of a woman who looks like a zombie on the front cover. And the whole point of the book is to make her look like she is trying to rip off her partner, and how can he protect himself from this form of evil. So they find various ways to justify the actions that they take when they set out to undermine a child's relationship with mom, to make it look like you're the perpetrator. What happens when a woman ends up in court and she's having to defend herself against charges of abuse that was perpetrated by her husband? Often these guys will, even if they were neglectful or abusive towards your children in the past, suddenly they can't bear to be without them. Suddenly it's, oh, I love my children so much, and I'm just so sorry about my wife who somehow has decided that she doesn't want the children to see me anymore, even though I was the one that was there, nursing them when they were ill and taking them to doctor's appointments. I mean, you know the kinds of stories that he can come up with. And often it seems like whoever tells a better lie rules the day, and you throw enough false allegations against the wall and something is bound to stick over time. Even if he's been neglectful or abusive of the children in the past, you may suddenly find him going after custody of the children. And why? Well, he looks good. It looks good in the eyes of the court, right? This father who wants to be with his children, how wonderful is that? If he can scoop more custody of the children, that's less money that he has to give you. And then how can he stick it to you? How can he wound you where it hurts the most? By going after what means the most to you, your children. So the trifecta, he gets with one move, he gets to accomplish 3 different purposes. That's why we talk about that chess analogy. One of the analogies we use in dealing with these guys is they're very good chess players. With one move, they can accomplish several purposes, and the idea is to isolate you from all the other players on the board, the better to achieve checkmate. So the grievance, the violent ideation. Violent could range from a physical attack to how can he destroy your career, your relationship with your children, your life savings, forcing you to go back to court again and again to defend yourself against all kinds of false charges or to protect yourself and your children from what he's trying to do. So then research and planning an attack. That's where he may be thinking about different ways to go after you. And then again, talking with the boys in the back room about what are the most effective ways to carry out that attack. Then he might start looking, let's say he's planning to show up at your workplace. He might start looking at the different exits or entrances, the parking lot at your workplace. If you have a restraining order against your ex, you might want to share a copy of that. If you're in a big complex, you might have a copy of the restraining order and a picture of your ex that you can give to the security there. Or if it's at school and there's a restraining order against him and he's not supposed to be on school property, have you shared a copy of the restraining order with the principal or with the staff there and a picture, just in case he decides to show up. Probing and breaches. Sometimes these guys will actually show up at your workplace and see what they can do to get past security. Or have you seen them driving by your home? If you're in a condo or a new place and You see this car that's kind of cruising the neighborhood. Is he doing it, or has he hired somebody to do that? You're having lunch with somebody or walking down the street downtown in a small town, and you happen to see somebody that's been kind of watching you. Sometimes they will follow you themselves, and sometimes they will hire somebody to do that. So please don't end up becoming paranoid, too afraid to go out. But it's always a good idea to be vigilant when you're going out in public, when you are escaping from an abuser. If you leave or end a relationship with a covert abuser, you have signaled to somebody who's all about control that he is no longer in control of you. And the problem with coercive control is their attitude towards the women and the children that they're involved with is this attitude of, these are resources, these are possessions, objects. So I get to use them and do what I want with them, use them and potentially use them up. And if they start to cause trouble, then that's when I may have to dispose of them or find some other way to get rid of them or punish them. So it's not that sort of intimate feeling of belonging and protection that a usual parent or partner has. It's a very cold-hearted way of looking at the world and at the people that they should be protecting. So watch out for signs that he is testing the restraining order. If you have a restraining order in place and he's not supposed to be contacting you, does he have his mother call you? Or is he sending you multiple text messages that if he's only supposed to contact you about the children, but is it over and over again, any excuse at all to harass you? If he's not supposed to know where you live and you open the door one day and you find a little teddy bear outside your door, how chilling is that? And the next door neighbor might think, oh, how sweet, he's just trying to be nice. The court might think, well, look, he's just trying to make peace with you. But you could very well recognize what the hidden intent is. I know where you are, I can show up anytime, and I can fool everybody because I'm usually always the smartest guy in the room. That's how they feel, and they often are, unfortunately. So watch out for these signs that he's probing, testing, looking to breach boundaries, because then that's when the final attack could happen. Do you find yourself opening the door only to meet a process server that is serving you with a restraining order to counter the one that you had against him? Or if you've let the cat out of the bag and told him, if you do this again, I'm going to have to call the police or I'll have to get a restraining order against you. Watch out for giving your partner signs of what you're planning to do. It's not a typical relationship where you talk about your problems with each other or the issues you're having using your I statements or setting clear boundaries. With this type of personality, they don't do boundaries. They do their own boundaries, but they don't do yours. And if you let them know what you're thinking, what you're planning, what has hurt you, you're telling him all the ways he can attack you. That's that Machiavellian sadistic part of their personality where they look for their opening, the points of vulnerability that you show, expose. And that tells them where to insert the sword. So from grievance to attack, the pathway to violence, he could be moving along this path or he can move back. So he may be thinking about some kind of attack against you and then something else may come along to distract him, or he may find he's getting his vengeance through the court system. And ironically, that can make you physically safer because here he's got a way to act out his grievance against you and exert control over you. No longer is he able to do it in person in the home, but now he has another venue for it, another place to act it out in the legal arena, so that the abuse gets transferred from home into family court. But if it comes to the point where he's not getting what he wants in court, is he going to look for other avenues to take out that grievance against you? So coercive control is a lethality risk, and it's not widely recognized in the court system, even with Family Code 6320, that is all about coercive control and is now grounds for a restraining order. It includes emotional, financial, technological abuse, controlling a partner's movements, not letting them do things they should be able to do, preventing them from doing those things or forcing them to do things they shouldn't have to do, isolating them from friends and family. There's even a new section about reproductive coercion. So you don't have to touch somebody physically in order to intimidate them, terrorize them, harass them, control them, and trap them. There are so many ways to terrorize someone and to imprison them, and so many that they get away with. And if you can create a log of the things that are concerning you and share that with your attorney, and then also our executive summary workshop could help you develop a bullet point summary about what you've been dealing with. All of these tools can help you better prepare and protect yourself and your children going forward. But once you know what he is capable of, the better equipped you are to protect yourself against potential attacks. So you see the grievance, violent ideation, research and planning an attack, pre-attack preparation, probing and breaches, leakage sometimes where he talks to his friends or other people in your mutual social circle where you get an idea of what he might be planning to do, or maybe something posting on Facebook even. Sometimes you get advance notice of what he might be planning to do until the final attack. So that's the pathway to violence. And I created the pathway to freedom as a sort of a mirror of the pathway to violence. And this is the survivor's response to that pathway to violence, beginning with the epiphany, recognizing this is abuse to counter his grievance. He's thinking that you're the problem. You realize he's the problem. And then you start thinking about what life could be like outside this prison, this home that has become your prison. And then thinking about what am I going to do about it, starting to perhaps interview attorneys, look for other places to live, start to prepare pleadings for a restraining order if that's what you want to do. Maybe hire an attorney or maybe leave or file that restraining order. You might end up going back. You might go back and forth along this path. As long as he doesn't know what you're planning in these first few steps, it's all reversible. But once he finds out what you're planning, got to be very careful. Safety planning always, because he's going to have a grievance against you. So knowing where you are on this path can help you better plan to get resources, providers, extra help along the way so you can build your village until that final escape. And then once you get out, that's when you begin that pathway to recovery. First, you got to get safe. As you're going through this process, how can a therapist help you when you are in the throes of it? They can help you with dealing with trauma triggers, building up your courage, your sense of perseverance, your hope, so that you feel that maybe tomorrow can be better than today. There is a life outside what you've been living. There is every reason for hope, and there is freedom. When you're living with an abuser, it can constrict your horizons and make you think that this is all there is and there's no way out, but sometimes the ultimate way out. And all of our ladies at some point or another, almost all of them, have thought that maybe death could be the only way out. That's not the case. That's what happens when you get isolated and you feel that there's no other options or resources. That's why coming to a support group is important, reaching out to other people like other advocates, other domestic violence agencies, finding a good attorney, finding a certified divorce financial analyst, looking for other places to live, really building your village. Once you get out, once you find a safe place to stay, that's when the recovery can truly begin, where a trauma-informed therapist can help you remember what you've been through, process it, take control of your narrative rather than having it have control over you, and then take some time to help you mourn the loss of a relationship that maybe you hoped, dreamed would last forever. That's the death of a dream, and it's important to honor that loss, because I'm sure he wasn't horrible all the time, not in the beginning, and you may even miss him from time to time. I miss those happy times. But the horrifying and tragic epiphany is that you don't ever get Dr. Jekyll without ultimately, eventually getting Mr. Hyde, those two pieces. And it's the mask of Dr. Jekyll that comes off and reveals the core of Mr. Hyde that is all about power and control. And then once you go through that stage with hopefully a trauma-informed therapist or a domestic violence advocate, support group, a trauma-informed friend, then that's when you can start to reconnect first with yourself. You figure out, who am I now? What gave me joy before and what can give me joy again? Who am I now after having all these experiences? Stronger, braver, wiser, even more empathy now because of what you suffered. And then possibly starting to reconnect with others. Old friends, new friends. Some friends may pass out of your social circle because they may have some things in common with your ex that you're recognizing now. And sometimes he might recruit some of them to become his, in quotes, flying monkeys. And that will be another sort of loss for you. But it's going to make way for new friends who are worthy of you, new connections, so you can go on and really explore what it's like. This new life of freedom where you get to be who you want to be. You get to have people in your life who deserve to be there with you and for you because they love you and they respect you and they're kind to you and they treat you as an equal. That's what life is all about. It's a world of possibility, a world of freedom and joy and beauty, and it's just waiting for you out there. So we can just hold hands and encourage one another and validate one another and give suggestions. Then we can make it through that dark night and find the beautiful, beautiful island oasis that's waiting for us on the other side. It's called freedom, baby, and it's worth every risk to get there. Thank you so much for watching. Please like this video, subscribe, and click the link in the video description to donate if you can to help support the work of this program. For more information and resources, you can visit us at womensv.org.